Hello folks, and welcome back to Brisket Medic. If it's your first time here, we appreciate you being here with us. Make sure you take a look around, see all the other content that we have that's going to help you become amazing at brisket and backyard barbecue and a hero to your family and those around the block. Today we're going to be giving you 5 tips of how to nail your next brisket cook. We're going to be cooking it on a pellet smoker. Today it's going to be the Green Mountain Grill's Jim Bowie. Pellet smokers have become a big rage because frankly they're just very convenient, they're easy to use, and you can get a lot done while something's on them because you're not really having to manage the fire. People call them easy bake ovens, whatever. It's 2022. I like indoor plumbing, I like technology, and a Green Mountain Grill Jim Bowie pellet smoker is just the smoker of the next generation. Don't get me wrong, I still love my old country Pegas, but I still use a pellet smoker quite often. So today, let's talk about 5 tips to help you nail your next brisket cook. Make sure you give it a like. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're new here. And let's jump in. Our first tip today is going to be selecting a simple brisket. Make sure that your brisket that you select is nice and floppy and one that you can bend almost all the way in half in the cryovac. Sometimes it's tough to do depending on how cold the meat is or how the cryovac is packed. If it's a very thick and tight packed cryovac, it's hard to fold. But one that's nice and floppy, that's pretty easy to find, but also one that doesn't have a ton of fat on it. So once we've selected that nice simple brisket, we want to do just a simple trim up on it. Remember, this is something basic and fundamental that we're doing to impress our family and friends. We don't have to get too fancy with it. It's a brisket. Let's do something very simple. We're not going to focus on silver skin or anything like that today. All we're going to hit on is taking off any of the hard fat, making sure there's not more than 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, somewhere in there of fat on the back side, and cutting off any hard edges. We're keeping it really simple, guys. So first step, select your brisket. Second step, a simple trim up. Now we're going to move on to a third step, and we're going to be doing a simple rub. Now, I love Uncle Steve's rub. I use it all the time. Uncle Steve's, Cosmo's, Meat Church, all those guys are absolutely amazing. But something that's very simple that you probably have in your pantry already is some seasoned salt and black pepper. Now, it's important that when you season your brisket, you allow this seasoning to have something to stick to. So I like to use just a little bit of mustard. Not a lot, just a little bit, just enough to make the surface tacky. And then I'll put down the pepper first and then the salt. And once I have one side seasoned, I let it sit there for about 10 minutes before I flip it over and season the other side because we don't want it to wipe immediately off. We want those salts to start dissolving into it and allow that seasoning to set. Once we've got our brisket selected, we've got it trimmed, we've got it seasoned, we want to do just a simple smoke job on it. If you're new to barbecuing, you don't really want to do a hot and fast cook, even though that is so convenient. And it's something that I personally like to do, but I don't believe that it's something for a newcomer to do because there's so many variables that you can really mess up on, and brisket's something that's kind of expensive and you don't really want to mess it up. So we're going to be doing a 250-degree smoke / cook. And this should take, because this is a 10-pound brisket, it's going to take between 45 minutes and an hour per pound at 250 degrees. So we're going to start it fat side down because the flame is just below the grates on these pellet smokers. So we want to use that fat as an insulator, but we'll spin that over after 3 hours. We're not going to open the lid. We're not going to do anything. But for 3 hours, fat side down, and then after 3 hours is up, we're going to flip it over, fat side up for the remainder of the cook, and let it keep going. After another hour or two, we'll open it up, check it out, and see if it needs our step number 4, that simple spritz. Now, it could be a day like today where it's nice and gloomy outside. I say nice and gloomy because we've been so dry here that this rain is such a welcome thing for us. But it could be a humid climate, it could be a dry climate, so that's really going to depend on how much spritz you need. Do not soak your brisket. Only hit areas that are getting dry around the edges and maybe a light mist over top. You don't want any pooling. That'll really keep you from building your bark. We've selected, we've trimmed, we've seasoned, we're smoking, and we're spritzing right now. And we're going to do this all the way up until it hits the stall, and that internal temperature is going to be right around 160, 170 degrees. And at that point, we're going to wrap it in some foil really, really tight. We don't want it to steam in there and ruin that beautiful bark that we've built. That takes a lot of practice and a lot of work on the pellet smoker to actually accomplish. Once we get that wrapped up, we're going to throw it back into the smoker. We're going to go fat side down this time, and we're going to let it ride out for another 30-45 minutes before we probe it again. Our goal is for it to be probe tender, but if this is your first time, let's just make it super simple and go 205 to 210 degrees, and then our smoking step is done. The cooking is done. Our last bonus, sixth simple step to nail your brisket is going to be to let it rest. Let it sit on the counter. Let it come down to about 160 degrees before you slice it up, because trust me, it'll stay juicier longer that way, and your fingers will thank you. Remember all these steps for the next time you want to smoke a brisket and you're maybe a little bit trepidatious to approach it. You can nail a brisket with these simple steps. Make sure you hit that like, guys. Comment down below how your first brisket cook went. And we love you. We'll see you later on down the road. Peace.